From the John DeVito Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Armchair Experts with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Wednesday, June the 22nd, the year 2016. And now, here they are, still breathing on their own from last month, Jim and Rich.
We just keep sitting up, eating, showing up. Hey, this is the week our Savior is going to arrive to rescue the bulls. Furkan Korkmaz.
I'm glad you remembered that, Jim.
Yes, Furkan Korkmaz will come and save the bulls, and it will be either him or Skal Labissiere. Which I believe is a wonderful vodka.
Yeah,
you know.
Jim. I was listening to our introduction music. Go da 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 da.
Yeah.
Ba bip.
Yeah.
Ba bip. So I'm thinking stats here. Thinking stats. Did you?
The music made you think of stats?
Well, our music made me think of stats.
Well, you've been coming up with
yeah. Ba bip.
Ba bip.
Ba bip. Yeah.
Yeah, your favorite stat.
I love that stat.
Yeah, I know. Hey, I'm waiting for the
NBA Finals.
The NBA. Yeah, when is Game 8?
Game 8.
Woo. That was a good ball game the other night.
Yeah, it was.
That was a good ball game.
It was a worthwhile championship game.
It's a shame they had to ruin it all by that post-game interviews.
As I texted you, Adam Silver should never get near a microphone ever. And what's her name? Doris Burke.
Doris Burke sounded like there was a funeral going on.
Yeah, I mean, aren't you supposed to be like, I know you're a reporter, but it's a happy time. You can let the reporter guys down now. Somebody already won. You don't have to be that objective anymore.
Man, she was like so serious.
Hey, yes, LeBron.
I think they were hoping that I think the idea was they were hoping that the series would have ended in Game 6 to give Craig Sager the opportunity because Sager worked the game with a cooperation deal between ESPN and Turner and TBS to give him an opportunity to work his first final game.
Well, should we let Craig Sager aside, should we let everybody know that you had predicted the Cavs in 7?
Yes, and you said after the first 2 games the Cavs may come back and win. So
right, you were despairing after the first 2 games.
I was. I didn't think it would come back to get back for Game 5.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? I think, I don't know if you recall, Jim, I've always said about the NBA Finals, the team, and you know what, maybe my perception in this case is wrong, but I would say the team that's the more power team usually wins. Now, last year Golden State was the same as it was this year, an outside shooting team, and they won. I'd say that's a little bit of an anomaly, but you know what, with LeBron providing the power, I would say, again, for the most part, that theory holds true. Yeah. I would say the stronger team underneath ended up winning the game.
Yeah. And it's always interesting.
Winning the series, I should say.
And winning the series. It's always interesting when you watch LeBron. I've always felt that here's a guy that could dominate any game.
Yeah.
Anytime he wants to.
Yeah.
And then there are times you watch him out there and you think he has absolutely no interest in what's going on around him.
Well, I think he really has a sense of trying to get his teammates involved.
He does. He's a great facilitator.
Yeah.
He's a great facilitator for his team and wants to make his teammates around him look better. But there are times when you look at who was out there. J.R. Smith was just amazing to me. I mean, J.R. Smith had a reputation for all these years of being just a selfish player.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of interesting. I saw an item where he was talking about being home with his daughter, and they were going through her room and trying to clean out some old toys that she didn't want that he wanted to get rid of, so maybe she could get some other things, and she was kind of balking about it. And he told her, he says, "Honey, sometimes you just got to sacrifice." And she looked at him after he did this, and she says, "Daddy, what are you going to sacrifice?"
Mm.
And then he suddenly thought about that in relationship to his game.
Yeah, is that a true story, or did you just make that up?
No, that was in practice.
You know the way he is, John.
I can find a way to bring things in to make my point, but this, I read it on the internet, so it must be true.
That's definitely it must be true, no doubt about it. That's interesting. Sometimes though, Jim, and I don't think and nothing's 100%, but when you come onto a team with a player of say the stature of LeBron James, you probably are going to fall in line, or else you're going to be gone.
Yeah.
So I mean, when I say fall in line, I mean do things the way you're supposed to do them.
You'll do it LeBron's way.
Well, and I think LeBron, in addition to being a great talent, I think he knows the game of basketball. He's been around long enough, and I think his way would probably be close to what anybody else's who you would consider a seasoned basketball person would think of being.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make any sense? I don't know.
Well, it's about as much.
It didn't sound like anything that made any sense to me.
It's about as much sense as we normally make, so I guess that's fine.
Man, I gotta straighten my tongue out here. Jeez, what's going on?
So, all right. So, basketball.
Was LeBron really crying, or was that just for the cameras?
No, I think he finally hit a point.
Yeah.
That the weight.
I think he practiced before.
The weight was off his shoulders.
Yeah.
After,
oh my God. Yeah.
It
is rough when you're making.
You're carrying a team and a city.
Yeah, boy.
Of
course, if you don't lose, you're still pocketing $25 million a year or whatever it is.
Yeah,
so.
it's a tough.
It is rough.
It's a tough thing.
It's a real cross to bear.
And he's thinking about the fact that the salary cap is going up to $94 million.
Wait, he's thinking about how much more he's going to make.
He's thinking about what his max contract is going to be.
If
I
wanted
to
be really cynical, Jim, when I saw
LeBron,
crying there.
You never have been cynical in the 50 years I've known you.
And he was so emotional because he brought the first championship to what is it, Northeast Ohio?
Yeah,
in 50-some years.
52 years.
52 years, but I'm thinking, geez, he wasn't that upset about it when he went. And I'm not knocking the guy because I'd probably, you wave enough money at me, I'd probably do it too. He wasn't that emotional when he went to Miami for all the bucks.
Just to make about $2.12 if you wave it at you. You'll go, okay.
And, he's not going to be that emotional when the salary cap goes up. So what the heck was he so emotional about the other night?
Yeah, I wonder how emotional he's going to be if the Lakers wave enough money at him.
Yeah, right. He'll be, oh, my God, we got to bring a championship to Los Angeles after 6 years.
That's right.
Oh, my God. Holy crap.
It'll be interesting. I honestly think he realized that probably, I would say his big mistake when he left Cleveland the first time was that stupid TV show.
That's right.
And even worse than that, their stupid pep rally.
Yeah. Oh.
That
was pretty dumb.
Yeah. Even though he got himself a couple of championships there.
Yeah.
God bless, he got himself a couple of championships. And as far as Golden State going 73-9, well, let's just keep one thing in mind: it don't mean a thing if you ain't got that ring.
That's why I would say maybe under normal circumstances I would have probably rooted for the Warriors, but because of Golden State breaking the Bulls record, I rooted for the Cavs. And I have to say, if it wasn't for that, I'm probably not rooting for LeBron. Or the Cavs. I'm probably saying you can wait another 52 years for your next championship. I don't care.
Yeah, it would have been amazing if they would have just kind of fallen aside again. I was just looking at the the box here the other night. Okay, I was wondering how many rebounds Kevin Love had the other night. He had 14.
was in the
14.
Yeah, he was up there. Did you notice, Jim, that the trend, other than no, I take that back. Kobe paired with Shaq and Kobe paired with Paul Gasol, but the trend seems to have been a little bit lately where you need to have three guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Warriors have Curry, Thompson, and Green. Cavs have James, Irving, and Love. And
a lot of times, I don't think Love was much of a factor.
Yeah.
I'm not really impressed with Kevin Love.
Well, I'll tell you what. He's if you really watch what he does,
although Game 7 he impressed me.
You see a very accomplished basketball player.
Yeah.
And of course the Heat had James and Bosh and Wade.
Yeah.
Did you notice? I don't want to get off on too much of a basketball tangent, especially when we're not talking Chicago basketball. But
because we are waiting for Furkan Korkmaz.
That's true. But Dwayne Wade looks like he's got he's over whatever was bothering
his
him.
knee issues, his leg issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. The issue with Wade, and you know, you're also going to have to reach that point looking at LeBron. No matter what his age is, there's a lot of minutes on those legs.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of minutes out on that court.
Yeah,
and that's going to wear down eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And it was nice. It was very gratifying as a fan to watch him achieve his objective.
Yeah, it's
I give him all the credit for that.
You must have been in a real touchy-feely mood that day. Wasn't getting that much of a feel for that.
Well, I was in one of those in the moment things.
This was my feeling. Okay, I'm glad Golden State didn't win because I didn't want to see them win after the 73-9 season. Now the rest of this stuff, I actually should have just turned the damn TV off.
You've good Lord, you're a cranky old man.
Hey, did you see? I saw some.
Jeez.
I saw some rumored trades that the Bulls might be involved in.
All right. Now I know the Knicks supposedly are talking about Derrick Rose.
Oh,
that's one.
They could have him.
The Suns.
I saw some where the T-Wolves, we were going to trade Jimmy Butler for Andrew Wiggins and whatever the T-Wolves
and the fifth pick. And the fifth pick.
That would be the fifth overall pick.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'd say okay.
The other one was, I think, it might have been Butler again to the Celtics for Jay Crowder, who I really don't know who that is. And I think they might have the seventh overall pick, possibly.
I think something like that.
So,
what do you? I texted the other day about with the rumors or the rumors between the Bulls and the T-Wolves. I would have a hunch that if it was strictly Paxson's decision, he'd make a deal. But I think Foreman won't go out of his way. Foreman won't go out of his way to make a deal with Thibodeau because Thibodeau and him just didn't make it.
Jim, any deal that the Bulls might make is, put it this way, in the NBA today, and probably even in the past, you're going to need at least one superstar to even get close to an NBA championship. And whoever they trade and whoever they get back, I don't think it's going to make all that much difference, to be honest. If you trade Jimmy Butler and you say the one trade that I had mentioned and you get Wiggins and that draft choice, yeah, it might be a good trade. Who knows? It could help. But unless that now Andrew Wiggins is a very good player, I guess he's going to be a good player. But whoever that fifth draft choice is, if
By
that
the way,
guy,
the Celtics have the third pick.
they have the third pick. Okay.
Yeah, the third pick.
So that's I think that was the other
Yeah,
rumor I had heard.
the Celtics have the third pick.
But who the heck is even in the draft that's worth getting?
You know what? I mean, gosh, I was listening. I had the radio on as I was coming here, and it's like I used to get all. You used to know like everybody who was coming in the draft, and you'd start to, oh man, this guy is good. I mean, there's very few names I even recognize.
No, who would be the top two players this year?
All right, the way it's looking still right now, and these could be 1-2, 2-1. Ben Simmons from LSU and Brandon Ingram from Duke.
Okay, and Ben Simmons.
And you've got the Sixers going first, and then the Lakers. Now, one of the things would be, I think the problem Philadelphia has, God knows they have enough problems, is you've got a backup with Philadelphia
with
at power forward and center. You've got Jahlil Okafor, you've got Nerlens Noel.
Yeah.
And you need,
plus you have the other big guy that hasn't even been able to play at all, Embiid.
Yeah, Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and the comment here is great. The teams that won. Let me see if I can get back to that page. Teams that won 10 games can't be hampered by position needs.
I beg to differ.
You need. Let me find that quote again. Teams that won 10 games generally cannot be driven by position need. You just.
That's maybe the whole problem is they need somebody to play a position that might help them
do something.
Bring things together a little bit better.
Yeah.
I'd be, if I were and this is just from what I read, I'd be a little leery of Ben Simmons. I mean, he's a really good talent, but I think there seems to be some question about not his character, but his.
Well, there are concerns about his maturity.
There
are concerns about his maturity, and Ingram is a bit more focused and a better worker.
What position is he?
Ingram
is he a guard?
Ingram is a small forward.
Well, neither of those guys. If the Bulls would have done well in the lottery, I wouldn't be jumping up and down saying, "Geez, we're going to get Ben Simmons or Brandon Ingram."
Yeah. Now the Celtics at the third pick, they're looking at least on the mock draft here as Dragan Bender.
Who?
Dragan Bender. He is a power forward playing in Israel.
That's the third pick.
He's 7'1", 220 pounds.
When are we going to start picking the varsity team after the JV team gets picked? What's going on?
This reminds me of gym class, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'll take Dragan Bender over there.
Yeah, and he's hiding behind because no, he doesn't want to play on your team.
Yeah.
Timberwolves are, and this would be a good pick. And if the Bulls got it, I could really see this if they traded up and got the fifth pick.
Who?
Chris Dunn, point guard out of Providence.
Well, see, there's a guy. At least I could sort of relate to Chris Dunn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least I have an idea of who the heck he is. And his team won the national championship, for God's sakes.
Hey, listen, I'm ready to go out and start buying my Minnesota Timberwolves.
Can I ask you, who the heck puts these mock drafts in order?
Oh,
is it the talking heads?
These are talking heads and writers. This one is actually off NBA.com, and I think NBA.com has kind of done a composite. Kind of a composite thing where they look at the different ones and just say, okay, well, out of all these drafts we look at, the majority says Chris Dunn is the fifth pick.
Why is a guy like Chris Dunn? I'm not being the agent for Chris Dunn here, but Chris Dunn's team actually did something. They won a championship,
the national
championship.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons' team, for instance, didn't even get in. So why is the one person rated number one and this other guy who actually has something to point to that he did number 5? It's interesting. Interesting, very interesting.
I think some of it depends as they look at it. I don't think they're necessarily rating a ball player on his ability. I think they're looking at it as more of can he fill a need for that team at that? What's the pressing need for that team?
Yeah. Okay, that I can understand.
And that might be more the way you look at it. 6th, Jamal Murray out of Kentucky for the Pelicans.
Jamal Murray. I don't know.
He's a shooting guard and point guard.
Okay. Anybody else whose name you recognize there?
Buddy Hield?
Oh. Well, now there's a guy that to me you got to take a shot on.
I think so.
I mean, another guy whose team did very well.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to look at him. He'll be gone by the time we get to the Bulls because if everything stays the same, Hield will probably go about 7th. Jaylen Brown.
Who's the guy they say we might get? Deontay Davis, is it? Michigan State guy?
No, that's
Devontae Davis.
Devontae Davis, that was one. And
Furkan Korkmaz will be there.
Furkan. Oh, this one is saying Furkan is going to be picked by the Suns.
The Suns, huh?
Yeah. Do you think a shooting guard at 6'7" and 185 pounds is 6 foot?
They bulked him up a little bit, huh?
6'7".
I thought he was 175 pounds.
185 pounds.
Wow.
And here's a new one for the Bulls. Wade Baldwin, the 4th, out of Vanderbilt, the point guard.
Wade Baldwin, the 4th.
The 4th.
We're in bad shape here, John.
The improbable rise from under-the-radar college recruit to the Southeastern Conference all-freshman team has taken him all the way to the edge of the lottery and possibly into the top 14 with good workouts after the sophomore campaign. He's a fiery, emotional leader who tries to take control even as a freshman. With the extra attention from defenses, he went from 43.9% overall to 42.7%, and from 43.9% behind the arc to 40.6%. So he got worse next year because everybody suddenly said, hey, we got to watch this guy.
Yeah, right. Oh, gosh.
Deontay Davis would be the 15th pick. Power forward, 6'10", 240.
Jim, did you ever think? Now, here we go back to this copycat mentality.
Yeah.
I'm assuming the Bulls brought Fred Hoiberg in because they saw that the Golden State, that other teams, I don't know what other team, Oklahoma City might be an example, where, they were living and dying on the three-point shot. And if, Golden State made it work big time for a while here. And they probably still will next year. But here's where, I object to the copycat way of doing things. Because say you draft a guy like Devontae Davis, okay, now he's a big man. They drafted a big man in Bobby Portis last year. What would be wrong with the Bulls saying, okay, maybe our area of strength is big men. So now we're going to play a different type of game. Maybe we'll play the old NBA style of game of walking it down and dumping it in and letting the big guys go to work.
Letting the big guys take it. That's not Fred's style. That's the problem.
Can't do that, right?
That's not Fred's style. Fred wants to force his style into whatever he's given.
I was at a softball tournament Saturday, and I ran into Tommy Horn, nicknamed Bomber. Tommy Horn has done a great job in high school basketball with some schools where you would not think there was much talent, Northside Prep was one, had some 20-win seasons there. St. Ben's was another. So Tommy knows his basketball, and we were talking a little bit, and I said, Tommy, you know Ron Kalina? He says, oh, man, fantastic coach, Ron Kalina. And the reason I'm bringing my conversation with Tom Hornup and Ron Kalina is that you've seen Ron's teams play.
Yeah.
You know what? He would be the furthest thing from Hoiberg, his style.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? In other words, if you're, I don't know, you name the player, instead of encouraging that guy to shoot and run up there and shoot the three or shoot some crazy shot before the shot clock is even almost expired. No, that guy doesn't shoot. That guy's a rebounder. This guy's a ball handler. Maybe you got a couple guys who are going to be your scorers. But this whole idea of everybody, hey, Bobby Portis, you got an open shot beyond the arc, take it. You know, even though you're shooting 25%. What is that all about? Does that help you win any games? And I'm not saying that's
No.
I'm not saying that's what Portis's average was or what.
Probably
but I mean,
was, you know.
But what are we thinking about here?
Yeah, you know, I always remember Coach Raymeyer saying, you know, you live by the three-pointer, you'll die by the three-pointer.
Oh, you will. You'll definitely die by it, no doubt.
And you know, I was watching Sunday night. You watch Golden State fire up these bombs.
You know what, Jim? Exactly what Coach Meyer said is what happened because all of a sudden, none of those guys. I mean, Green was hot right off the bat, but at the end, none of those three guys, him, Thompson, or Curry, I mean, they look god awful, and I mean, their shooting was terrible.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're good shooters, but you know what? Good shooters even go through cold spells, and they went through it at the wrong time.
Golden State was 15 of 41 from three-point range.
So you're talking not even. You're talking less than 40%.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking less than 40%. Now Green was 6 of 8, but Curry was 4 of 14.
Mm-hmm.
Thompson was 2 of 10.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, right there, you know, if put
it
this way, if
if you got those two guys going 6 of 24,
you know you're
not going to win a ball game.
You're losing. There's no doubt.
You're not going to win a ball game.
Right.
Now Green played some really, really good ball.
Yeah.
You know, and I've always thought, and I think you and I have talked about this before, and maybe even on the air, the key to Golden State is Green, Draymond Green.
No,
that's your all around player.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I mean, I would look at him, and could we say he might have been Golden State's equivalent to Scottie Pippen? The guy.
Yeah, I think that's a good.
You know, the guy who could do.
That's a good example.
You know, the guy who could come in and do anything.
Yeah.
You know, you need him to score, he'll score.
Yeah.
You know, you need him to take the rebound, kick the pass out. That's it.
I always liked Draymond Green, even from his days at Michigan State. And there's an example of a guy who played 4 years of college, got that 4 years of really good experience because you're playing all your conference games in the Big Ten, and that's a tough conference. I don't care what the so-called experts say. You play 20 Big Ten or whatever it is, 18 or 20 Big Ten games.
By the time you get through your tournament, you're probably talking 20 games.
Yeah, I mean, against very good competition, you're getting seasoned. So when you step into the pros, is there still an adjustment? Definitely,
sure,
but not quite as much of an adjustment as Wade Baldwin IV, who was all freshman team, and
I'm looking
finally made the varsity.
And I'm looking at again, just going back and looking at the mock draft on NBA.com, and here's another 4-year guy coming out of Michigan State that could go. He can be available when the Bulls draft, but Denzel Valentine.
Yeah, I saw it when I looked at the only mock draft I looked at. I saw they were projecting him in the second round somewhere.
Who, Denzel?
Yeah.
He could be, but I mean, I'm just looking at this mock draft, and they got him 18.
But no, your point is well taken. A guy with 4 years experience, and here's the other thing: not only does he have 4 years experience in the Big Ten, but another key factor for me, if I'm looking at drafting somebody, who's his coach? Okay, his coach is a guy who knows basketball and knows how to coach.
Right.
So this guy, the likelihood is he a lights-out talent compared to other guys? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But can he play all phases of the game? My bet is that he can.
Mm-hmm. I'm just looking for some other names here that we can certainly enter in our all-name team, too. We've got, let's see, we've got Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah, well,
he's
a pretty good player.
Good ball player. He's Arvydas Sabonis' son.
Yeah. Or was he at Utah?
Gonzaga.
Gonzaga, okay.
Who else did you mention? Damian Jones at Vanderbilt, 7 foot tall, 250 pounds, big guy.
Mm-hmm.
This one, Boston has a pick on. Boston has a pick for number 23, Thon Maker from the Athlete Institute.
Who?
Thon Maker from the Athlete Institute in Canada. Yeah,
oh, wow.
Yeah, that's my thought too.
Some stiff competition up there.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, hey there, ho there, hi there.
Hey, yeah, hoser.
Yeah.
Here's our name, Diamond Stone.
Diamond Stone from Maryland.
From Maryland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Chicago sports writers were really jazzed about him.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
I think they just like the name. They like to write that name.
Diamond Stone. They'll talk about a diamond. They're thinking of all the similes and the things they can come up with.
That's all they care about.
That's all they care about. Yeah. Juan Hernan Gomez from Spain.
That's the guy with the two last names.
Hernan
all together.
Hernan Gomez.
Hernan Gomez.
That's it. So anyhow, I'm still looking for Furkan.
Furkan. Hey, he's going to be there when we're ready to draft.
He could be available. Furkan could be there.
Yeah.
Skal Labossiere.
Skal. Yeah.
I'm going to pour myself a vodka and tonic when Skal gets drafted.
Look at John.
John's sitting back going,
yeah,
vodka,
that sounds good.
Vodka, Bloody Mary. I think maybe I'll fix me a Bloody Mary and just watch the draft.
The only thing John is hoping for is that Derrick Rose gets moved. That's it. His favorite player.
His favorite player. I think I don't know if you'll see that now, but you're going to see it before the season's over. Yeah, because then there won't be that much left on his contract. Although, it really would be a surprise. Maybe not that much of a surprise. If the deal is right, if the deals are right, you see Butler and Rose both gone.
Oh, I wouldn't
that wouldn't totally surprise. That wouldn't totally surprise me at all.
Well, I was driving up to Elkhorn Saturday evening. I heard on WBBM that the sports news that they said that they think that this is going to be a healthiest year for Derrick Rose.
Well, it's his contract year.
Yeah,
obviously, you're always healthy in your contract year.
Yeah,
and then you get the big money, and he thinks he's going to get a max deal, and he ain't going to get a max deal here.
Mm-hmm.
No.
He ain't going to get a max deal. He may be able to take his little song and dance out to the East Coast and maybe the Knicks.
Yeah.
Maybe if Phil Jackson is still running that team, although I think there's always the periodic story of him going back to his fiance's team. And
when he plays, he's a good player, but it's just getting him to play. He's not as good as he's not a Michael Jordan.
Mean he's not the player he was. You have two knee injuries like that, you're not going to be the same player.
You know what ruins a lot of things is the news media. The news media, they overdo. The same thing with the Cubs and the Sox, and I mean they make a big mountain out of a molehill. You know.
You're right, John.
You remember the famous quote from Fred Allen talking about mountain out of a molehill. He said that Every NBC vice president, when they come in the at 9 o'clock in the morning, is given a molehill, and they're required to make a mountain out of it by 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I bet.
You know.
You know what, Jim? I'm glad you said this, John, because one of the things that was on my mind, and this just real brief, we can break real quick. But I was
John started the clock late today. We're about 2 minutes. We got about 2 minutes. 3 minutes. Okay.
A name popped into my head the other day, and I don't know if you had his baseball card. Dick Tomanek.
No.
He played 5 years. Most of them with split them between the Indians and the A's. 10-10 record. Hit one home run in his career. He's a left-handed pitcher. And I'm thinking to myself, when I was a kid, if I would have been, say, able to meet Dick Tomanek, I probably would have been maybe not as thrilled, but still thrilled as if I would have met, say, Ernie Banks. And I think the thing that's happened with sports, and the reason I bring that obscure name up, is, we just become so jaded, I think. Instead of enjoying the sports, it's like, everything has got to be criticized. And John, you brought up a great point. The Cubs are going great, but, it's we're far from. I don't know. We're not even halfway done with this the season, right? I mean, so they can't be crowned champions. The Sox are going bad, but I don't think they will recover. But there's time to recover. I think the thing that I always think now, there's good and bad actors in sports. There's guys who are real good guys. There are guys who, do bad things. But all of these people that are in professional sports have worked very hard and very long to get to the acme of their profession. And I don't think we can forget that. I don't care if you're Tim Fedorovich, who just got DFA'd by the Cubs. If you saw all three of us saw Tim Fedorovich on a ball field here at Norridge Park, taking some swings, somebody throwing him batting practice, you'd be like, holy cripe, that guy is phenomenal. Because that's really what he is.
That's what he is. He's achieved the highest level.
Yeah. I mean, he's at that level, he's an average or maybe below average guy, but he's not a terrible ball player. He's an excellent ball player. And that's what we've lost. That's what we've lost.
And it's the issue going back to the media having all these outlets and all these television stations and all these cable outlets. You can get the information immediately, and everybody sits there and looks at all that, and they think they're experts.
Mm-hmm.
They think they're experts. By the way, here's a NBA news alert. The 76ers tell Ben Simmons he'll be the number 1 pick.
So So we're going to take him.
They'll take him. All right, let's take a break.
You're listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, June the 22nd, the year 2016, with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM 89.7 Norwich, Illinois. And now back to Armchair Experts with Jim and Rich.
Thank you, Doctor of the Dials. Just looking, it's always interesting sometimes when I sit here and have the paper open in front of me just to look at different items here. This is from Tuesday's Sun-Times. On this day in 1932, Jack Sharkey scores a 15-round split decision over Max Schmeling to win the world heavyweight title.
Jack Sharkey. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what, Jim?
Also on this day, too, in 1964, Jim Bunning of the Philadelphia Phillies pitches a perfect game against the New York Mets. The no-hitter gives Bunning 1 in each league. And here was another fact that I did not know. Gus Triandos becomes the first catcher to handle no-hitters in both leagues.
Oh, I never heard that.
I
before.
didn't
Never
know
heard
that one. That's one I never knew.
You remember the name Charlie Powell?
Charlie Powell.
Charlie Powell was probably you would know him as a professional football player or a boxer.
Yeah, I just remember him as the name as a football player.
Well, to maybe further, and this is the last I'll do on it, but maybe to further my point on the type of athletes that these guys are, Charlie Powell played professional football, I believe, with the 49ers and the Raiders. As a boxer, he fought Muhammad Ali. And as a baseball player, he was drafted by the St. Louis Browns, Bill Veeck being the owner, and was a prospect, played for the Stockton Ports B baseball at the time. But here's the other thing about that, as I'm thinking about this. There were more guys who probably fit that type of description where, they could have played maybe baseball, they could have played football. They were three sport guys, or they were even sometimes more than three sport guys. Today, with all the specialization, I'm not even sure that specialization is helping, because I don't see the games being, in terms of the real nuts and bolts of the games, I don't see them being better than they were. I think you spread yourself out, you weren't specialized, but you learned all the sports. And I think every sport that you played really contributed to another sport. Like if you played baseball, there's something you did in baseball that could that you learned from a coach. I'm not talking about a skill, but just a lesson, a life lesson, or a lesson about how to be a teammate, or how to be a good sportsman, or how to compete, that you could carry over to another sport. Today you don't have that. It's all it's very specialized, and I don't think it's really helping.
And you come in at a higher level, let's just say in the college sports, and your objective is not to enjoy the sport and enjoy what you're doing. Your objective, which can understand for most of them, that they want to progress on to the next level and be a professional.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, interesting thing, just going back to talking about Denzel Valentine. And I brought up the Players Tribune before.
Uh-huh.
There was an article on there recently within the last few days. I should have just forwarded the email to you and tell you to click on the link, and I forgot about it. Denzel Valentine talking about his playing 4 years at Michigan State and what it meant to him.
Mm-hmm.
Just as a person and playing for
Thanks, John.
Tom Izzo, and how this, what it really meant to him, and it meant to him as a person, the fact that he grew up in the area and played there, got a chance to play there, the fact that he and his dad used to go to games there when he was a kid. It was a good story. That is the sport meant something to him more. The school and the sport meant something to him more than I have to get my NBA contract. I've become good enough that I may get my NBA contract.
I'm smiling, Jim, because I think you've brought up the Players Tribune before, and it made me think about how much more exposed these athletes are, and it's now you're not just out there playing a sport. Now you have to speak, and you have to say things that don't become blown up into a controversy.
And you got to stay off social media.
Made me think about that story, and I don't know. This may relate in my mind. Everybody else may be saying, "What's he talking about here?" But the old story about when Johnny Unitas was the quarterback of the Colts, and Don Shula was the coach, and they had a young Unitas's backup was a guy named Jim Ward, and Unitas threw a touchdown pass, and I guess he and Shula really didn't get on that well. So when Unitas came off the field, he was nowhere near Shula, and Shula told Ward, who was standing next to him, he says, "Yeah, go over and ask Unitas what his read was on that play." So Ward trotted over there, and he says, "Hey, coach wants me to ask you what your read was on that play." And he looked at him and goes, "Read?" He goes, "He was open. I hit him." Oh,
That's your
man.
basic.
That's your basic stuff.
That's your basic stuff. What other interesting things here? Here's a list of all the NBA draft early entries. It goes on for about, I'd say if you put the whole column, it would probably be one whole column here.
Is this for just this year?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, here's another one that could be available here. Timothy Luwawu
Oh, yeah.
from Serbia.
Sounds good.
Nah.
So what else you got here, James?
I don't know.
You want to talk about the Sox? Because the Sox have been
they're
not doing too well.
Yeah.
They did had a good game last night,
My
though.
gosh, big game, James. Wow.
You know, how do you fall
How-
off the
how do you-
ledge that quick?
How do you fall off that quick? And I was trying to think of a player. A pitcher, back probably in the early 70s. It was a good ball player that all of a sudden just completely lost it. Somebody with the Pirates.
Steve Blass.
Steve Blass, thank you.
Yeah.
I thought it was Steve Blass.
Well, he lost it even worse because he couldn't even get the ball near the plate. I mean, he had some kind of, I don't know, psychosis where he could not get, he was just he was walking a ton of people, wild pitches.
Yeah.
He just fell right off the,
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I want to say that's where, the muscle repetition sort of falls off and your mind takes over, and your mind, it doesn't do the trick for you. Your muscle memory is really usually what's working for you. And once you start to think too much about it, then you have problems. Who's the other? Chuck Knobloch.
Chuck
That's
Knobloch
another
couldn't
good
do it.
example.
Well, obviously he had a bit of a career in another position, but Rick Ankiel started out as a pitcher,
Yeah.
and was a great prospect, and then all of a sudden he didn't seem to have the ability to pitch.
Yeah. It happens.
And you know what? I mean, I watched one of the games that Shields pitched. I mean, you're looking at him, and honestly, I mean, I've never seen James Shields pitch that much.
Mm-hmm.
But you're looking at the motion, you're watching that. Maybe the controls seemed there, reasonably there.
Although,
The question I would ask, and I wonder about this, is what's the velocity like?
yeah, although, today they did have an article in the paper about James Shields, and according to the Sox, Shields, everything is fine, but they're saying he's not getting ahead in the count, which is hurting him. That sounds simple, but that's as simple as what they were trying to make it. And they think if he can get ahead in the count, he can maybe resume his effectiveness. I believe that there are simple answers. That sounds a little too simple to me, but
that sounds a little too simplified. But I mean, you're sitting here with a guy with 3 starts and an earned run average of 21.81. Batting average against him is 480,
wow.
and his WHIP is 3.81, which means he's basically he's putting 4 runners on base.
I'll tell you, I have to go back to something that John said earlier. Yeah, now, here's a guy. Now, how much more does it affect you when, okay, you could be the most humble guy around, but you're big game James, right? And somewhere inside of your head, that has sunk in. I'm big game James. Now I can't get anybody out. I think it goes back to that whole media thing where, you tag a guy with a label, and then when he has problems, it's even worse. I mean, you were big game James. Now you're getting knocked all over the park. That makes it even worse. I mean, the Sox fans are probably way less patient than Cubs fans, but the first game that this guy pitched, they were booing him almost immediately. I mean, that's a little
I
that
can't-
gets a little rough.
I don't even know. Did he get out of the first inning?
I don't know if he did or not.
You're expecting this. You're expecting this, for lack of a better term, a savior to come.
Yep. God bless you.
Thank you. Oh, I love allergy season.
Ah,
You're expecting the savior to come based on his reputation. You'll say, "Oh well, forget about that last start with San Diego. Everybody has a bad game once in a while." But to come in here and have another one, and then another one, and then another one. After that, you sit there and go, what in the hell did we pick up?
yeah. Well, plus, no matter how professional everybody is in the locker room, they're human. And what some guys are thinking also is, guess what? Somebody that was a teammate got pushed out of here, and you brought this guy in, and he's doing nothing for us. I don't care how professional the papers or the media are going to tell you these guys are. There's no way. I'm not saying every one of them, but there's no way that thought is not floating around the locker room somewhere. Somebody's got it, and it's not a good thing.
I was looking at posting from a blogger on one of the Sox pages, and I can't remember who shared it. I'd have to go back and look for it. It was a rather lengthy post. But looking at all the deals, looking at the problems the White Sox have, looking at the fact that their weakness never really been being able to develop strong position players.
That's, yeah.
Looking at the deals over the last few years that the Sox have made, looking at one of your favorite stats and mine, these players' WAR.
Yeah, the WAR.
The win, that's almost as good as the BABIP.
Yeah.
But the wins above replacement. You added up the wins above replacement for all these players over these last few years, and it was a plus 15. Now, if the analogy that the comparison he made is he looked at the WAR for Abreu, Eaton. I think those were the only two, Abreu and Eaton. If you added up their WAR over this period of time, if Hahn would have stopped after just picking up those two players, they'd be in about the same position they are now.
Yeah.
In other words, you've got some pluses here, but you've given away so much too.
Well, Jim, you could, as you know, I'm not a big one for stats, but okay, let's say as a GM, you're looking at WAR. Let me understand what you're saying first, though. You're saying that the Sox as a team right now, with the players they have, would be like a plus 15.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I'm trying to figure out why they're 34 and 36.
Well, here's what I would say. The way I look at it is you can bring all solid citizen type of guys in, and they may, if you use the stat WAR, they may be better than the guy that they replaced. If that's the way, am I understanding that right?
Yeah.
Okay, but here's the way I look at a team. A team has got to somehow logically fit together, and if it doesn't do that, I don't care what the WAR is.
I don't care what the BABIP is or anything else.
Okay, yeah, it does. The team is. Here's a good example. The Sox are a much better team, even though I would say if you look at, say, Austin Jackson on paper, decent, maybe a little bit below average as overall, especially offensively. But the Sox are a much better team with him in center and Eaton in right than when Eaton's in center and Garcia's in right.
Right.
That's the type of thing where you look at the pieces and they fit together.
Yeah.
One of the big things, I've said this a few times on this show, the whole deal with Adam LaRoche, I understand why Abreu had to be the guy to play the field and LaRoche had to be the DH. But it does, if you look at it, I don't know, maybe in a real world way, it doesn't make sense. You have a guy who's been a Gold Glover, never been a DH, and he should be the first baseman. The younger guy, who's the weaker fielder, but a good hitter, should have been the DH. Now, I understand, in my head why they did what they did, but I go back to some of my own experiences where in your head it seemed right, but you know what? In your gut, where I think sometimes it really counts, it wasn't right. And I think the other thing is the players will know that, okay? It's not that they're going to say, oh, man, that Abreu stinks at first, or we should have LaRoche. But in their head, they're saying the same thing I'm saying. This doesn't make any sense. Okay, and so there's that doubt in the back of their mind.
There's the doubt in the mind, and based on this team now, its composition, is another manager going to get more out of them?
Oh, I doubt it.
I doubt it.
I liked what, I don't know, you didn't get a chance to really look at the paper, but Renteria said today, he says, I'm not here to be the next manager. I came in to help Ventura, and I told them straight from the beginning, I'm not the guy. If you replace him, I'm not the guy. Now, when if the opportunity is presented, maybe he'll change his mind. But I don't care who you bring in. I think the team is sort of a mess.
Mismatched.
Really.
They talked about. You look at Frazier. Frazier's hitting a $197. You talked about they talked about behind the plate with Navarro and Avila. Navarro, I guess, really had a decent. Navarro's kind of had a decent year. That year he was with the Cubs.
Oh yeah, and he was also a guy that they used off the bench, and he caught once in a while.
Right.
He was not.
He was not
counted on.
He was,
now,
but he had a good year and was effective when he was out there.
If you put Navarro, now I'm pretty sure Navarro probably played. He was probably the starter for the Jays last year, but he was in a pretty dynamic offense. So,
Wasn't Russell Martin?
Whatever he. That's right. Russell Martin.
Russell Martin
was
right.
There. So, but put it this way. If you're expecting a marginal, and I'm not trying to diss Navarro, he's a fine player, but he's not a guy who's going to carry your team. And if you put him in a situation where you need more production out of him than he's capable of giving him, you're putting him in a bad situation. If you understand what I'm saying. I mean, that's like Brett Laurie. Is he a great guy to have on your team? Sure. I mean, he's into it. He's a hustler. Look at what's his batting average? I mean, it's like 236, 240. I mean, he can't be much over 240 if he's that.
No, 228.
228. So, it's
and it's a mismatched team.
Very mismatched.
The pieces just don't,
they really don't fit.
You look at some of the you look at some of the things you see. You look at your pitching staff. You see Rodon. Okay, maybe he's going to start to come around. He's still learning.
Well, here's another. I'm glad you brought him up because, and again, I'm not saying anything about him, but I just read one of the two. Go ahead, Jim.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
There was two pitchers that they took. I think their top. They're the top two pitchers they took in the draft. I mean, I know the catcher was the number one overall pick for them, but one was Hansen, the other I can't think of the other guy's name. But I read somewhere that where they already were talking that one of the two might get a shot in the majors before the season was over.
I saw that, and I can't remember who it was.
And they had the same kind of crazy talk with Rodon, which goes back to your point, Jim, of the farm system not producing enough players. So, in other words, when they get a guy who's talented, like Rodon, or I'm assuming this other pitcher is, now they rush the guy to the show so they could at least point to somebody, hey, this guy's here.
And I guess you look at that and you think how the Cubs did it with the draft. And, oh, my God, he's good. We got to get him up now. And Theo's, no. He needs a season.
Yeah.
He needs his time.
Yeah, you really do. You do.
He needs his time. And it's a philosophy that worked on the north side. And on the south side, all they're trying to do is rebuild on the fly.
Right.
And that isn't working.
Well,
And it's at the point now where you're going to have to start looking at the talent that you've got and what can you get for it. Maybe Quintana's going to disappear. Maybe that's a marketable talent, and see what it brings you back in the way of prospects. Because this is what you're going to start to need to develop.
yeah.
Because your farm system, and it goes back to some of the deals that Kenny made,
Yeah.
that the talent was given away and you got nothing there to fill up behind it.
That's true. You can't deny that. Now, let me ask you this though. Say let's take a Rodon. Was Quintana did he come through the system or does he come in a trade? I mean, was he from another? I know he didn't play in the majors with anybody else.
I think he may have come in a trade.
Okay. There's a lot of things that you can talk about in this regard. Here's Quintana, who's, put it this way, whether he came up through the Sox system or he came in a trade, nobody was like having a parade for the fact that the Sox got Jose Quintana. Yet he's a very good pitcher. Carlos Rodon is and I'm not trying to knock Rodon, but I'm trying to use him as an example. He's a high draft choice. He's got, according to...
He was a first pick. He was a first-round pick.
According to what everybody says, he's got lights-out stuff. I'm thinking about another guy that we had in Chicago on both sides of town, Jeff Samardzija.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it... lights-out stuff doesn't mean that you're ready to pitch. And wouldn't it have served, say, Rodon better if he would have just progressed, say, single A, double A, triple A?
Sure.
Maybe even do a couple years in triple A just to make sure everything was cool. And then he comes up.
Yeah.
But they don't have they can't afford to do that.
They're not being able to afford to do that. And by the way, as far as Quintana, as far as his path to the White Sox, April 26, 2006, signed by the New York Mets as an amateur free agent. July 31, 2007, released by the New York Mets. March 10, 2008, signed as a free agent with the New York Yankees. November 6, 2010, granted free agency. December 15th, signed as a free agent by the New York Yankees. November 2nd, 2011, granted free agency. November 9th, signed with the White Sox as a free agent.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I also want to look what kind of career he had in the minors.
What was the first date that you mentioned?
2007?
6?
Yeah.
Makes me wonder how old Jose Quintana is.
He was according to this, he was 17 when he pitched in the Mets system in 2006. His minor league record was 19-11 with a 2.76 ERA. Major league, he's 38-41 with a 3.37 ERA. He's always pitched well. He's just never gotten any support.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I mean.
Well, he wouldn't be the first pitcher that suffered from that malady.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Jim, I was looking at, I remember I mentioned Tomanek, right? So I'm looking at the Kansas City A's, 1958 Kansas City A's. They had 4 or 5 pitchers on that team that had won over 100 games in the majors. Ned Garver, Ray Herbert, Virgil Trucks, Murray Dixon, and the other, a guy that I didn't never realize
Murray
this guy.
the Cat. Dixon.
I never realized this guy who had won over 100 games because I knew I had heard of his existence, but he's not a name that anybody talks about. Alex Kellner.
I remember him.
Actually a 20-game winner at one time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you look at each of those, almost every one of those guys, now there might be an exception in there, but because I think Trucks is over 500 and Herbert might be. But the other guys were all less than 500 pitchers, but with over 100 wins. And it made me think, what kind of clubs do these guys play on? They were probably very fine pitchers because they went out there every fourth or fifth day or whatever it was. And they won a lot of games in the majors. But if you don't get the support, if you're a good pitcher and you're playing with a lousy team, I don't care. You're not going to throw a one-zip shutout every game. You need some support. You need good defense. You need good hitting in order to have a good record. And these guys obviously were very good pitchers who didn't have that, weren't able to be on those types of teams.
Ray Herbert, just going back, Ray Herbert's, I believe, I think he's still alive. He's 86 years old. His career record was 104 and 107.
Okay.
He won 20 games when he was here with the White Sox.
Yeah, definitely.
In 1962, he won 20 ball games.
Yeah.
Following year, he won 13. Ended his career in 1966, 2 seasons with the Phillies.
Yeah. But I found it interesting that I said, man, you know what? If you put all 5 of those guys on the same pitching staff when they were in their primes, because at that point they were all toward the end of their career, you'd have a fine pitching staff. But when you bring up, the reason I'm bringing that up is I looked at that this morning, not because I thought it was going to fit in the show, just because I was looking at some things. And Quintana, could be a guy in the same ballpark. Where he's a good pitcher, but he doesn't get the
He just
support.
never has gotten the support. Interesting here, just going back, Ray Herbert came to the White Sox from Kansas City along with Andy Carey, Don Larson, and Al Pilarczyk for Wes Covington, Stan Johnson, Bob Shaw, and Jerry Staley.
So I would say that the Sox made a really good trade, and I would think that Ray Herbert was the guy they were after.
Ray Herbert was the guy they were after.
Yeah.
Now, when they traded him to the Phillies, they traded him with Jeff Long, and you know who they got back?
Dick Allen.
Danny Cater and Lee Elia.
Oh, geez. Wow.
Wow. What was Bill Veck's one chapter in Bill Veck's book?
Open for business or whatever.
Veck is in wreck. I trading 2 $100,000 dogs for a $200,000 cat or something like that.
Right.
So
yeah.
All right. Well, I think we managed once again to muddle our way through another hour and change of our various and sundry nonsense. John's smiling, so I guess we didn't do anything and embarrass him too much.
Well, he did step out of the room.
He did leave. He did leave out of the.
He doesn't know what we did then.
He did step out of the room then, but John keeps an eye on us, and he always tells us the same thing: have fun, don't do anything to cost us the license. And I think we managed to do that, no matter what. Thank goodness. All right, time for us to get out of here. We'll be back again somewhere around July 20th. July 19th,
right.
July 20th.
Wow.
We've had, and hey, another one where we're going to be doing 2 in a row. July 19th and July 26th.
Wow.
Hey, we got a lot of time to build up stuff to talk about. By then, Furkan Korkmaz will be installed as the savior of the Bulls.
Yeah,
We'll be
hardly wait.
We'll be ready for another thing. Big Game James will be, wow, I haven't been this excited to see somebody pitch since...
we'll be talking a whole different ballgame.
Ernie Brolio or somebody like that. Well, anyhow, that's it. Time for us to bail out of here. Thanks for listening. We will catch you in a few weeks. Until then, we are Taillights.
You have been listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVito Broadcast Center on Wednesday, June the 22nd, the year 2016 on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network with the WRHS sports announcers Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. This broadcast was directed by John DeVita, and our special thanks to radio station manager Kevin Zefalik of WRHS FM Norwich and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chikanda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Tuesday, June the 21st, year 2016. Thanks for listening and have a great day. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois, a Ridgewood Community High School radio station.